Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. It is evening time here in Saranda. I am Vidette. If you are new here, my being is quite light at the moment. It feels so good. It feels so good to be lighthearted. It feels good to be in peace. And I've been talking about that for the last, I don't know, few week, 10 days or so, how much at peace I feel. And being in that space for such a consistent amount of time is extremely different. It's so different. And I've been talking a lot about this on each Peace Talks. I've been talking about just not being able to be triggered and not um, just not feeling the normal dips and ups and downs. And there's a lot of that newness, new messages that I have, not messages, but I have a pretty important message to bring today. And it all stems from this place of dead calm, which I talked about on the last Peace Talk. So that's in, if you haven't watched that, this space, what I'm calling like dead calm. It's just, it's a whole new place to um, to resonate with, to get used to anchor in, because we're so used to being in the ups and downs and the triggers and the healing process and all the ups and downs that takes. But this is the space. This is the space that we have been guided to, and that we have to be in order to really understand today's message. When we can operate like this in the world, that's the place of 0 point, where nothing takes us down into the churning of life emotionally, where nothing keeps us so high that we kind of are disassociated from physical reality. We can just ride our world, our reality, our lives in a space of peace and calm. That's the fifth dimension. That is the place of magic. That is the place of creation. And that has been the place why we have been kept out of that space so much in the inverted matrix. So I'm going to get into today's message because it feels really, I think I say this with every Peace Talks, but I can feel an urgency in the messages as they come through. There is an importance to them, and especially today. So, first of all, thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in to Peace Talks. This work is so sacred to me. It has sustained me in so many ways, mentally and, well, spiritually. In most cases, it's been a very spiritual journey to bring what was the daily tune-ins and then now Peace Talks. So this past year has been a huge growth spurt for me, and I do believe it's because I've had to tune in. I've committed to bringing these messages forth, and that to me has given me an understanding that my work is extremely important. And getting the feedback that I do and the beautiful donations that I do also show me that these messages are required at this time. It takes all of us who are doing this work to be in this space and to do what we are called to do. And this is something that I was called to do, whether whether it sustained me financially or not. There was no it's not that I didn't have a choice, because I did, but there was no doubt in my mind that this is where I'm supposed to be. So I appreciate everyone who tunes in, because there is a reason why you are on this particular channel watching these particular episodes. So I'm extremely grateful for that. If you are here and you're watching this and it does bring you spiritual sustenance, spiritual food, please, by all means, hit the like button, leave a comment. If you're even more enthused, you can send in a donation to support the platform and support myself through this work that I have chosen to do. So today's message, hi Kat, hi Tarla, good morning everybody. Grand rising fellow mystics. I love that, Kat. Yes. And today I think it's interesting. Okay, so I'm going to get into the message because it came through yesterday actually. And some of these messages come in so powerfully, so loudly. And what I mean by that is they come in so clearly that it just like I can feel the energy just rush through my body. And that's when I know, I mean, they're all important, but there are specific ones that come through, and I could go through each peace talks and be like, oh, that one I remember feeling this. So yesterday, this message was a whole like being sensation that went through me. And I'm excited to bring it to you. So, the cosmic broadcast system, okay? So, sometimes I don't even know where to start with all of these. So, I've been talking, and many of you have mentioned your ears ringing. And that's been a very common symptom of this ascension process. The more we've been able to heal and purge old densities, I have not new pants, but pants I haven't worn in a while. And they're like the pants that I know I don't wear them because they're a little bit tight. So I'm going to unbutton my top button so I can, so I can breathe a little bit. Just being real. These tones, more and more of us that have heard more and more is because we've been clearing out old densities, purging, everything that was distorting our ability to connect with our spiritual senses. The spiritual senses of hearing, our spiritual hearing, has to do with being able to hear messages. Hear, if you're clairaudient, you'll hear messages. I don't hear like messages. I mostly see and feel. So the ringing that people have been talking about is not the inverted matrix, tinnitus thing. This is it has become more and more prevalent in us as we have cleared out all of the junk that has been cutting off our ability to hear the cosmic broadcast system. Now, I've also spoken in the last 10 days or so about a couple of experiences I've personally had where, and I talked about it a few peace talks ago, and I think the last one too, how I was making dinner one night, and all of a sudden, like the right side of my hearing just amplified to the point where I was like, whoa, I said, whoa, out loud. Now, it wasn't startling, it wasn't painful. It was not like a scream, like it would rattle your nervous system, but it was so, I want to say audible, but not in the physical hearing sense. As you know, like many of you have the ears ringing too. It's kind of audible, but it's not. It's within us, but um, uh, it was so prevalent. And I even said that the dogs were starting to shake. Now, dogs they have, or animals in general, have a different hearing. They can hear frequencies that we can't. This was a frequency I had never gotten to. And as fast as it came in, it was done. I think I may have been last Peace Talks, or maybe it was two ago. I can't quite remember. But as I was talking, I remember saying, like, whoa, my ear just rang. And when I say ear, it's always, and here's how I'm not saying this is what it is for you. How I understand these tones, they run through, they're pretty balanced because I'll tune into them. So they're pretty balanced when I just get quiet. But usually if I hear the tone kind of amplify in my left, it's for me to pay attention to my physical surrounding. There's something in my physical world to pay attention to. My right side is the spiritual side. There's a message coming through. There's something to pay attention to in consciousness. When it's just a balanced tone, I can I can hear both sides. Again, this is really, really hard to put into words because it makes it so linear, and this is not a linear tone. So yesterday I was walking the dogs in the morning. Same thing happened. An amplification came in to, and to the point where like I literally were like, whoa. And then I always ask, tell me more about this. What do I need to know about this? Because it doesn't always make sense in the moment. I'm just aware of it. When I came down, my nose is running. When I came down to the house, I just knew that I had to sit down, and there was a message coming through, and that is today's message. And this message came through so clearly, so tangibly, that like I said, it took over my entire body. Since then, I'm going to get to the message, but since then, this morning I woke up, and I always talk about Patricia Cota Robles. She has a weekly vlog, and her weekly vlog this week was about the 1212 portal that we're about to enter. And as I listened, I understood even more what today's message, that there's something resonating right now with these tonal frequencies. And right before I got on this Peace Talks, I got a text from a friend of mine in Scotland, and she is extremely intuitive. And her text was very, very affirmative of this message as well. So there is something in the air, so to speak, in consciousness for us to pay attention to right now. So here's the message. Our quantum connections, our quantum corrections are complete. What I mean by that is those of us who are in this, my ears have rung for years, and sometimes I hear the energy change and it sounds like, wee, right. Yeah, Kat. So we have been in this healing phase now for however long. Some of us can say years. This whole spiritual awakening is a step by step. It's not just one awakening that all of a sudden we're like, I'm awake. It's just every revelation is an awakening. Every new insight is an awakening. Every higher perspective is an awakening. And we have been diligently on this awakening journey, ascending into higher and higher levels of consciousness. The higher we get in consciousness, the more attuned we get with universal knowledge, universal wisdom. As we have continued to clear and cleanse, the more we have heard different tones. And the energy changes, like Kat, you're talking about, these energy changes will come in, and we can hear them. And actually, it's funny, it's not like a one side or not, but I can just kind of hear the tone go up as I'm speaking. This that we're hearing is the Cosmic Broadcasting System, CBS. This is the higher intelligence of the inverted matrix CBS network. This is the universal network, the Cosmic Broadcast System. The universe communicates in tones. And it's interesting because, well, I'll get to that. Sorry, I'm just trying to pull this like in a linear way to make it understandable, and sometimes that's really hard to do. But we have to now really start paying attention to these tonal frequencies. The message I got yesterday is that we now are in a phase of testing the CBS, testing the Cosmic Broadcast System. So I'm going to bring it back down. Remember back in the day when we had normal TV and we were maybe tuned into the inverted matrix CBS or NBC, and all of a sudden the TV would go boop. This has been a test of the emergency broadcast system, right? You get a tone. This has been a test, and they tell you what to do when that test comes, or if that test should have to come. There have also been, in this last year or two, there have been conversations about the EBS, the emergency broadcast system, being implemented all across the world. And many people who are aware of that have had different theories on why that is. I don't know if that's actually been implemented, but we kind of know that there is an event that will amplify or that will send out the EBS, whether that's the solar flash that we're talking about, whatever. Okay, I'm not here to like give stories to anything. What we are now being communicated with is that the CBS, the Cosmic Broadcasting System, is being tested. So every time that amplifies, that amplification goes up, and I'm like, illuminate what this is. That illumination came in yesterday. These are test pulses of communication that go out so that we become more aware to tune in when these amplifications come. And because we just kind of hear the I don't even want to put a sound to it, but as we hear the ringing, when we feel or we hear these influxes, we are to tune in that moment, because I believe what we are being called to understand is the CBS is going to bring us a tonal frequency at one point, at one now moment, that leads us all to undeniably hear it. Those of us who are attuned to the CBS, the Cosmic Broadcast System, in that moment, and we've been talking about revelation moment, illumination moment. We've been talking about whether it's the solar flash of cosmic understanding. We know this moment is coming. We know this moment is within our lifetime. But I believe that we are now to that point, because many of us are getting to the point where we're in that 0 point moment. We have cleared the quantum clearing has occurred for many of the pioneers that I talk about. Those of us who have been on this journey, who are pretty much cleansed and cleared of all of the junk, all of the old false matrix programming. We have been scrubbed. Our quantum multidimensional beings have been scrubbed. Our mental mind programming has been scrubbed, and this has happened both out of our consciousness work, what we have done consciously in clearing. It's also been done in the astral realm, and this has been done over years. So our minds now are more attuned to the spiritual nature of our guidance. So our minds are not our I don't want to call it the enemy. Our minds are not working against us because it keeps trying to pull us back. Many of our subconscious minds have been scrubbed, and I've talked about this on Peace Talks. So now our minds are more of the faithful servant to, oh, this is what we're doing now. Okay, you got this guidance. And rather saying that guidance doesn't make sense, we've never done that before, it's more the faithful servant that says, okay, now it's more willing to do things that it doesn't know, because the subconscious has been programmed based on what it knows, and it only directs us in what we know. But what we have always known is how it's been programmed by the inverted matrix. That has been scrubbed, that has been cleared. Our energetics have been cleared, both consciously by us working through the dips and the ups and the downs. We have been willing to go down into the depths of all of our stuff, cleansing, purging, all of that. Our physical bodies have been scrubbed. Many of us have felt the elimination, as our energetics cleared, and all the traumas, all of the junk energies, as those have been cleared, our physical bodies have come up in their own consciousness. They've come up into into the crystalline light being rather than the carbon base. So all of that has been scrubbed, and the higher we go in frequency, the more balanced we become. So those of us who are in this conversation, who have been on this journey, we are getting confirmation that our physical beings, our quantum beings, our multidimensional beings have been completely scrubbed. The cleansing and the purging is for the most part done, and we are now purified. So as we've been purified, we are ready. We are ready, and there's nothing more for us to do than to stay in the present 0 point, peace, dead calm space, because this is the space where we are fully attuned to the cosmic broadcast system. The cosmic broadcast system is, comes in, is our supernal channel. So as long as we are cleansed and cleared and we are in the present, we're no longer living in the past because that's already done. We are setting our guidance system on our fifth dimensional heaven on earth. So we are just simply knowing now that wherever we are guided to go, wherever we are guided to be, whatever we are guided to be, we are in that place of peace, because we just know that we are ready to ascend, and that moment comes in a moment by moment by moment linear path trajectory. However, there is that moment in time when we will be, through a flash moment, through an illumination moment, we will be almost like pulled into a higher realm in a moment. That moment will come. We will know it is imminent by a tonal frequency from the cosmic broadcast system that will be so obvious. And in that moment, I don't know what that tone, some people have talked about, the trumpets, some people, it's just going to be an obvious tonal frequency that we will know. And that tonal frequency will go into every conscious being on this planet at the same time. However, not every conscious being is going to understand it. Not every conscious being is going to know what to do with it. So here's what we have. Here's the message for us. And this is what happened yesterday. When I downloaded this message, I was directed to sit down and write a post out, write a text message out, that upon this moment, when this tonal frequency comes in, this is what you do. This is what's happening. So the cosmic broadcast system will come in, and those of us who are attuned to it, who are expecting it, and who understand it, because we will know that moment will come in, and our purified multidimensional selves will immediately translate it, will transcode that transmission through the tonal frequency into our like linear time. So think of it as, when you're turning the dial on a radio, there's static until you hit that one point where the message is so clear. We are being attuned. We are attuning ourselves into clearly decoding these tonal messages. So when you hear a variance, that is a moment of time where you just stop and you tune in. And that is then how we are attuning. So when this moment comes, it'll be a moment where we will have a certain amount of time. I think we'll know it in that moment, where it's almost like, I don't want to say a warning, but it's a there's another word, but I'm going to call it a warning. It's an alert. It's an alert saying, alert, this moment, your illumination moment is coming. Be prepared. And within minutes, we will then experience that moment in time. For us, when we get that tone, that is when we reach out. I will post. I will, that's when I will text my, my loved ones who may not fully understand what I'm talking about. And I've had this conversation with my kids, with my husband, but they're just like, yeah, okay. But in that moment, we will know that I don't know if it's the flash. I think it is. I think that's what we're talking about here. But we'll know that this is coming. And at that point, we will then know to just direct our loved ones, direct, each other, and say, hey, the tone came in, just be prepared, because at that moment we just get prepared to sit through this moment of illumination, because at that point our consciousnesses will expand so rapidly that we will have, even those of us who understand what's happening, it's going to be a lot to take in. And as we know, when we get downloads or we wake up after a big shift, those of us who are aware of what's happening, like of this process, it's still, we're still a little bit disoriented. We're a little bit disassociated from everything. We sometimes we have to sleep in order to integrate all of this. This will be a moment where it's that multiplied and expanded. So even for us, it's going to be a lot to take in. So we will have to rest. We will have to drink lots of water. And those who are unaware of this moment, it could be a very uncomfortable moment, which is why when the CBS comes in, those of us, it's going to be kind of like the game Whisper Down the Lane. Like, that's when us, the pioneers, go into action, because we'll have some time before that moment hits, where we can then go out and we will be the communicators of what is happening, so that we then can just prepare those that that we love, that we support, who are our hub. So if you think of each pioneer is our own what are those things? Transformer, like a transformer of of communication, or a network of communication. So we will go out to our networks and say, hey, just so you know, this is coming. This is what's going to happen. Here's all you need to do. There's nothing to fear. Just, you're going to want to sleep. Just the best thing you can do is sleep through this moment in time. You will be okay. Some people who, and depending on the level of frequency of each person, the frequency of each person's consciousness will be in direct relation of how well they take in this surge of energy. And that is up to every single person on their own. Our job is simply to receive and hear this tonal frequency, which we will know it. Again, I don't know what it's going to sound like, but I know with just the test surges that I have personally received, it was all, I mean, again, I don't want to say audible, because it's not, but it was so obvious. And that obvious tone is going to ring out longer than ever. And at that point, I think many of us will start, kind of reaching out to each other, and we'll all affirm and confirm, yes, I've heard it. And that's when we go out to our networks and just start letting people know what is coming. I also believe, let me just make sure I got everything, that in shortly after that, there will be some kind of EBS message to hit those who may not understand the CBS Cosmic Broadcast System, may not accept any messages that they get about it. These are the people that are in the lower frequencies of fear, and the EBS will also kind of have an effect in its own way on people. But we understand at this point, at this ascension point, in this expansion point, revelation point, everyone has already chosen what that moment will be for them. It's not for us to go out and do anything for anyone. It's simply for us to communicate it and then have our own experience. So because this message, and I did, I started getting flashes of this moment back in earlier this year. I did a video. I was sitting out in the balcony, and I just started like downloading this moment, and I did a video on the spot. It wasn't like a daily tune in at that point. It was just a video. It's on my YouTube channel about like what I thought that moment would be like, and I think it's 20 minutes. I rambled a lot because I was still kind of like trying to transcribe this message or this download. So this moment in time has been building for a while, and we have all. But in that moment, we were still doing our clearing work. We were still purifying. But because of where we are now in this tsunami of energy that we're in the, in this moment in time, and because of the message that Patricia Cota Robles put out this week, because my friend texting me, she's like, I had this dream, and it was a very tangible, vivid dream that she shared with me right before coming live on here. And there are a couple others that I've seen who are attuned to something like this, starting to to kind of come into our physical realities. So I'm not giving dates. I don't say it's happening soon. I believe this is just the message at this point. This is a seed that is being planted in us. And what our job is now, what our mission is for those of us who are pioneering this whole process, we have two things to do. First, stay in the 0 point dead calm place. It's the only place where we will be able to receive this message clearly, and where we will be aware of this tone. That said, our job also is in meditation, or if I take out that word, in quiet moments. And I've been doing this now for about 7 days. I'll just be called, several times a day, just to sit, maybe for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, close my eyes, and I just tune in to the tone. And as I tune in, I simply just affirm. Maybe sometimes I do a power up prayer. Sometimes I just affirm whatever this tone is, whatever messages this tone holds for me. I embody this tone and ask for it to be illuminated at the perfect and divine time. These tones hold packets of light. These tones hold knowledge. And once we pull in this knowledge and embody it into our being, at that point, when we are at the frequency of that packet of light, it bursts open and we get a new insight. We get knowledge. We get wisdom. And I believe, I mean, I can't say for sure, but that night when I was cooking dinner and it was like, wee, I mean, it went like, just exactly what, who was that cat said, when it goes, wee, but it was like, like I said, just, I've never heard a tone that loud, that loud. At that moment, I was like, what was that? I pulled that into my being, whatever that was, at the perfect and divine time, I will know. And yesterday, I feel like all of that packet, that explosion, came into my consciousness. And I've had a couple of those moments, not like that, but a couple of moments where the tone has been very, the test broadcast that was embodied, and that wisdom exploded yesterday. And there's always a reason when it's the perfect time for us to be aware of the knowledge within. It lights up, and it lit up, and it's lighting up in several different people in our community at the moment. It might be lighting up within you all. It's in alignment with Patricia Cota Robles's message for today, for this week. So there's something that we are now having to understand in a tangible way. So what we have to do is continue to attune to these tones. So be sure, from this message to the next message on Peace Talks, this is our work. It is now to take this message, embody it, and spend as much time as you can tuning in to these tonal sounds, in inner wisdom that's coming through. Because this is where these tonal sounds is where the intuitive direction is going to come from, when that moment in time comes, when we all hear the alert, and we will know it. And at that point, we will know exactly what to do. I know step one already is for me to send out this message that I've been, I was called, I mean, I have the image for it and everything. Like, it was so powerfully um, clear yesterday. Send this out. And it's just giving people an overview. Here's what's happening. Whoever sees it is meant to see it. For those who don't, these tones are already running through everyone in humanity, whether they understand it or not, whether they're aware of it or not. And in that moment, every single person will have intuitive knowledge of what they are to be doing, whether or not their frequency of consciousness will determine whether or not they act on that or not. So it's just for us to tune into. Um, but as far as the work that we are here to do, it's done. We are done. The only work now is to stay in this place of peace. And I will tell you at this point, it's not even work for me to stay here. And it's like weird. It's so weird to be this much in a place of calm and not have to work to stay here. It's very strange to me, and yet it's liberating. It's liberating. But there's a part of me that's like, I feel like I should be working harder right now because I'm so used to constantly being like, oh, what is this feeling? Why am I feeling this low? Oh, I have to purge it. All of that, when I got the message, it is done. I feel like that's true. It is done. We are where we need to be in order to now be open and receptive for this tonal frequency to come through. Okay. So that's the message. Practice, meditate to attune to the frequency. Just get attuned to this. And as I was like, I went down to see a friend today, and as I was walking, I was just tuning into it, into the internal tonal frequency, because I'm trying to now um, uh, raise my awareness to this tone, because this is the what am I trying to say? It's just, I want this now, this tonal frequency, to be in the front of my consciousness. And it's just, it's a knowing. It's just an intuitive, like, oh, it's not even a nudge. It's like, you need to just, this tonal frequency is your work now. It's just tuning into that, because the more we tune into it, it's just like dialing a radio. You are consciously listening for the moment when it gets to the perfect clarity. That's kind of what we are doing now. Our work is to get into perfect clarity of being fully aware of this tonal frequency. It's going to be obvious as anything when it comes through. But for us now, it's just, we are tuning into it. We're tuning into it. So it's in the front of our awareness. Okay. So that's the message I have for you today. Let's see what y'all have said. Yes, me too. I'm very excited for that moment. Me too. And here's the other thing. Well, I can feel it so close. My excitement grows bigger and bigger every day. Tarla, me too. That's how and this is what I was going to say. It's really, really important. That's why I've never really agreed with dates. I've never, like, I'm not, it's like, for us, it's not waiting to the 12/12 portal. Like, I get the very, very much yesterday more so. I mean, today it's kind of embodied in this message. When it came through yesterday, it was like any moment in time, which is why our conscious awareness has to be on these tones. Um, so it's not like I didn't get the message like, oh, the 12/12 portal, or, on the solstice. It's not, and I don't know if it's going to happen before then, after then, or whatever. It's interesting that this moment, this message came in as powerfully, and it's also backed up in my experience with these surges already that I have experienced. And so when they said, we've been testing, we've been sending, tonal surges already, I was like, oh, that's what that was. Okay, I get it. So we are being sent these pulses, and when your ear, when that tone goes up, so we're just tuning into it to recognize when the tone goes up, when it goes down. When I get quiet and I meditate on these tones, I can literally hear it go, Sometimes I can hear it going like almost like the binaural beats, like some of the meditation songs. I can hear it pulsing back and forth. So we are just, we are learning how to discern this tone within us. And again, remember, I'm going to say it again. These tones have information. So when we're tuning into it, pull those messages in, and you're most likely not going to get it right away because you're not at the frequency. When you pull in I'm trying to come up with a metaphor, but nothing's coming to me. But also, I'll just say the words. When we pull this information in, the information is seated now, embodied in us at the perfect divine time when we are at the resonance of that particular packet of light. That's when it explodes open. So not only are we attuning by bringing our awareness, but we're also affirming. I mean, I would even say it out loud. Our words make it so. I pull in this data and embody it into my being, and when I'm ready, this information will be ready for me. So that is our work right now. Cat is a signal. I've definitely had this audible test as well and know exactly what you're talking about. It makes total sense that that's what it would be like. And Tarly, yeah, the clarion call. That's exactly, I think, and I've been using the word clarion call a lot. And I also know several times that I've read different messages that have come through here on Peace Talks. And like I've already said, the clarion call has already gone out. And what we know by that is the energetic clarion call has already gone out. The physical world is now catching up. So what I believe why this message is coming in now is I believe the physical manifestation, the physical materialization of this moment is getting close enough where we are now being guided on what to do in that moment when the tonal frequency comes through. And, it literally was like, know it's coming, send out this message, let your, family know what to expect. And that's when, because when it comes, then they're going to understand at that point that, this is what you've been talking about. And they'll trust at that point. And many of us will be in it. So it's going to almost be like the way that it came in is it's almost going to be like a trickle effect. It'll happen all at the same time, but the knowing of what happened, of what is happening, or the understanding is going to trickle down through humanity from those of us who like hear it and we're like, holy shit, this is it. And then that network, our network call, our network communication goes out to all of those who might be in our sphere of influence, who may or may not understand what we talk about. But in that moment, we're going to be like, you probably heard a tone in your, I'm going to say in your ears, and this is what it means. So just, relax, breathe through, drink lots of water. You're going to be called to sleep. So just sleep. And on the other side, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. And many of us, have people in our worlds that are still fear-based. So this is where we are called to just comfort them and just say that everything's okay, because when they get the EBS that something is coming potentially. I don't know for sure about the EBS. That wasn't part of the message, but I'm just pulling in puzzle pieces. And because we've heard so much about the EBS being the EBS is just kind of re-emerging, and there's been more conversation about that on phones and all this thing. And my friend in Scotland was saying the EBS was being reinstated. I mean, this is a couple months ago now, but she's like, oh, I just got a message that the EBS is being reinstated in Scotland. So we were like, ooh, like knowing about the flash and all of this stuff. So because that conversation has been going on, and now that we're talking about this, I believe the potential is there that the CBS, the cosmic broadcast tone, will come through. We will go out and let people know in our sphere of influence, and they get the message. If they understand it, they go out. If not, they're like, this is all bull crap. And then they get an EBS message, potentially. Then they'll be like, oh, okay. And because they've already had a conversation with us, they'll be more likely to navigate that moment in more peace and in, in more faith and trust rather than fear. So it'll be like a trickle down effect through the different consciousnesses of consciousness, the different frequencies of consciousness, and those that are in the lower frequencies who live in the place of fear, they may not even receive our messages at all. They probably won't even see them. They probably won't hear them. So they've got to navigate it however they're going to navigate it. So that's the message. My right ear has had a frequency during this talk. All right, Carolyn, she's getting a test. This is a test of the cosmic broadcast system. This is only a test. It will trickle to most. Many will literally be sleeping, but I expect to be woken up in the night. I feel very ready for this. I do too, Kat. So I see. So you all are kind of, it too. We're just affirming what we already know. We're putting puzzle pieces together, and it feels like, those last few puzzle pieces of a puzzle. It's funny. Before we left Austin, Bud was really into doing puzzles. I would do like the first 5 minutes of a puzzle, and then I lose interest really quickly. But we had a ping pong table, and he in our living room. Actually, he was in our dining room. We took out our dining room table and just made it the ping pong area. And so he would get these huge, like thousands of piece puzzles, and he would sit at night and just, we'd put music on and he'd put these puzzles together. And it was always like, he'd do the work out in, and like that last center piece was always like kind of the most frustrating because you just wanted to get it finished. And yet like the pieces just seem more complicated in the middle. It kind of feels like that's where we are. We've been placing these puzzle pieces together for years now, and our puzzle, and the puzzle basically is the last remaining pieces are what takes us into that ascended reality. And it feels to me that we're very close to putting those last couple of puzzle pieces together. It's getting easier now. We're like, oh, that's how it's coming together. So I think we're being prepared for that. We are being educated and trained, and we are going to be the front line. This is going to be our time, because like the weird ones who have been seeing this and putting this puzzle together for so long now, we will be the frontline workers of this moment in time, because we are going to be the ones who are saying, this is what's happening, and here's what you do, and we are going to be the pioneers of peace in that moment. So that's pretty exciting. I'm stoked for that moment. Let's see. Let's see. I will trickle the most. Many. Carolyn says, aha, right. Yes. Over the last few days, I've got so much clarity that I also feel very ready for this. Me too, Tarla. Like, yeah, like the clarity of messages, the clarity of, and even like our unique heavens on earth, like the visions for our own expressions are becoming very clear to me too. Like the puzzle pieces are falling in. I'm like, that's who I am. That's what it's going to look like. That kind of clarity is coming as well, which is expanding. And here's the other thing too. Another just experience that I've been having in these last couple of days. Also, I think is important to remember, and I'm having it now. My heart, I believe there's a massive heart expansion that is happening, so that we are prepared for that moment, because that's when like everything blows open. Our minds are blown open, our hearts are open, because now we step into that fifth dimensional realm, and we're like, our hearts are like, oh my God, like love, like everything pours forth. So in the last couple of days, I'd say 3 or 4 days especially, it has been in a constant state of contraction and expansion. The contraction isn't scary. It's just more like like I don't even want to call it tension, because it has such a context to it. But it's just, I can just feel it contracting. And and it's like, it's not like, oh, I have to become aware. Like I'm very aware of it, because it's been such a constant practice of here feeling the contraction, and then just breathing it. And then when I breathe in take a deep breath, I can feel it expand. Like the breath is so big and it feels so good. And then like the heart expands, and then I'm good for a few minutes, and all of a sudden I'm like, and I feel it now. I could like, take a deep breath because it just feels like a constriction but again, like not a scary constriction. So there's a lot of that. And the other thing too that makes me understand this physical realm experience that we're expecting is because my belly has been really gurgling a lot, and I've heard I've seen many people talking about being bloated. And I was talking to Bud the other night, and he was laying in, it was his morning, so he was still laying in bed, and he had the phone kind of like, he was laying down, and he had the phone down here. So the microphone of his phone was by his belly, and I could hear his belly gurgling. I'm like, honey, your belly's talking to me. He's like, yeah, it's been gurgling a lot. What I know of that, what it was clear to me is that quantum clearing, the purification is completing, which it's always completed last in the physical realm. So the three chakras that are associated with the physical being are the root, the sacral, and the solar plexus, which is in our belly areas. So there's a lot of like just last minute cleansing and clearing going on. So like our whole, like from our heart all the way down to our root are being like last minute just cleanses and purges. It's not like work. It's just, everything's just kind of getting ready. I think it's getting ready. So if you have some gurgling or bloatedness, that it's just the last clearing of that area. Jessica says, Jessica just got here, Central Time Zone. Oh, yes. In Houston. She just arrived in Houston. Okay, whoa. So I've been feeling a twitching on my left and no pain. Just breathe to pry it open. Yeah. Nicola says, hi, we'll go back to beginning to watch once you're done. Oh, yeah, Nicola, I mentioned you. I said that, yeah, I got a text from you. Nicola's my friend in Scotland. So she's having some visions and dreams of the flash coming through. And Tarla says, same tightness in my chest has amped up too, just having to breathe through it. Yeah. And it's not like, for me, it's not uncomfortable at all. It's just noticeable. I'm like, oh, okay, I got to breathe. And then so yeah, we are being primed. I really believe we're being primed. And now it's coming into our consciousness that we are being primed to expect this tonal frequency. Okay. That is all I have for you. It is done. It is done. The main gist of work for us, the pioneers, I do believe it's done. And we are just awaiting orders to step into our next mission, which is our heaven on earth, our ascension into the fifth dimensional frequencies. And depending on where people are in consciousness, some are still very much in the 3D. That moment in time will attempt to take them into the 4D. Some will not make that because the fear will overtake them. Some will will listen. Some will do what we did, and just breathe through it. And then those in the the lower realms of the fourth dimension who are just kind of awakening and understanding a little bit more will breathe, and they will ascend a little bit higher. Those of us who I believe are in the higher dimensions of the fourth dimension, because we're right there, will ascend, and it'll just trickle down. It'll just be a trickle down effect of bringing this place of peace that we're in, this dead calm. The 0 point energy is all we have to stay in. So our work right now, I'm going to repeat it because it's this important. Stay in the dead calm. 0 point. Stay in peace. Nothing can take you out of it unless you allow it. And 2, attune as much as you can. Tune into these tonal frequencies, in the spiritual ears, tune into the spiritual tones so that you can start to understand them and translate, and just be conscious of it more and more and more, because that is going to be our new broadcast system. Not new, but that's going to be our main broadcast system from here on out. All right, y'all. Thank you so much. Amazing message today, Vidette. Thank you. And guides so much. Yes, you too. Thanks. You all helped co-create this because you're in it. You're it. You are the message. So thank you to Kat and Tarla and Nicola and Jessica and Carolyn and anybody who's going to watch this. on the recording, you're part of it too. So we are the pioneers, and it's just us. Me bringing another piece of the puzzle, and you all are putting your piece of the puzzle into the main thing, and we're creating this. We are creating this. So stay tuned. Pun intended. All right, John. Love you so much. I'll talk to you on the next Peace Talks. Mwah. Have a good time. Have a good one, and good time came out as have a good ton.